Imagine a truth so earth-shattering, so profoundly hidden in plain sight, that it could redefine everything you thought you knew about wealth, purpose, and the very fabric of existence. What if the relentless pursuit of more is actually leading you further away from true fulfillment, and the answers you seek have been whispered across millennia in a language you've yet to fully understand? This is not just a story. It's an unveiling. A journey into the heart of a forgotten wisdom that promises to transform your perspective on everything. Prepare to have your assumptions shattered, your spirit awakened, and your understanding of the world irrevocably changed. You've never heard anything like this before. Stay with us until the very end, and you'll witness a revelation that will leave you speechless and yearning for more. If you're ready to uncover this unique and heartwarming truth, like, subscribe, comment, and share this groundbreaking story. And join us for more revelations that will touch the very core of your being. What if the very engines that drive our progress, the intricate dance of markets and the relentless pursuit of growth, are merely a more polished veneer on humanity's most ancient temptations? Could it be that the digital pulse of our global economy, the invisible flow of capital that dictates fortunes and destinies, is but a sophisticated echo of the molten idols our ancestors once bowed before? Think for a moment. Are we truly masters of our financial instruments, or have they subtly mastered us? Do the algorithms that govern our exchanges serve human flourishing, or do they perpetuate a cycle of accumulation that leaves a spiritual wasteland in its wake? Look closer at this desert. Is it not a mirror to an inner landscape, parched by an insatiable thirst for more? The golden calf, a symbol of immediate gratification and earthly power, stands tall amidst the monuments of our modern age. Have we simply exchanged one form of idolatry for another, trading tangible gold for the abstract promises held within our digital wallets? Consider the skyscrapers on the horizon. Do they represent human ingenuity and aspiration? Or are they towering testaments to a system that prioritizes endless expansion, often at the cost of our shared humanity and the very earth that sustains us? Is the relentless climb towards ever greater material wealth truly an ascent, or could it be a descent into a deeper form of bondage? What if the kenotic love of the cross, the radical self-emptying of divine love, stands in stark opposition to the grasping, possessive nature of what we have come to call Mammon? Can these two forces truly coexist within the human heart, or must one ultimately yield to the other? This is not merely an economic question. It is a profound spiritual battle for the very soul of our existence. Are we building a world of cruciform stewardship, where enough is truly enough and resources are shared for the common good? Or are we forever bound to the gilded cage of capitalist accumulation, chasing a mirage of endless prosperity that ultimately leaves us spiritually bankrupt? Idolatry as existential misdirection. Idolatry. The very word conjures images of ancient rituals of kneeling before carved figures. But what if the idols of our age are far more insidious, far more integrated into the very fabric of our daily lives? What if the ceaseless hum of the global marketplace is the new hymn to a God we dare not name? Consider the screens that dominate our vision, the constant flow of data promising prosperity, security, fulfillment. Are these not the altars before which we offer our most precious commodities? Our time, our attention, our very aspirations. We scroll endlessly, seeking validation in likes and shares, chasing fleeting trends, all in the pursuit of a digital currency that promises a form of social salvation. But does this relentless engagement truly nourish the soul, or does it leave us increasingly disconnected from the authentic human connection our hearts truly crave? Augustine, that keen observer of the human heart, spoke of cupiditas, disordered love? Could it be that our relentless pursuit of possessions, our insatiable desire for the next acquisition, has subtly twisted our affections? Have we, without even realizing it, allowed the things we own to own us? Do we measure our worth by the size of our portfolios, the square footage of our homes, the horsepower of our vehicles, effectively turning ourselves into slaves of our own desires? Think about the last time your heart truly ached. Was it for a deeper connection, for a moment of profound meaning, or was it for something you felt you lacked materially? Have we so conflated our identity with our net worth that the fear of financial insecurity has become our primary existential dread, eclipsing even the fear of spiritual emptiness? The golden calf of the ancient desert whispered promises of security and power. What does the golden calf of capitalism whisper to us today? Does it not urge us to secure your worth in accumulation, to find our value in the ever-increasing digits in our bank accounts? But at what cost? Are we sacrificing genuine relationships, moments of quiet contemplation, and the pursuit of true purpose on the altar of endless economic growth? Thomas Aquinas, with his profound wisdom, reminds us that property is not an end in itself, not something to be hoarded and clutched tightly. He speaks of usus, a sacred stewardship, a recognition that the resources of this world are entrusted to us for the common good. But how often do we truly operate from this understanding? How often do we see our wealth not as a personal trophy, but as a shared responsibility? Look again at the juxtaposition of the bustling markets and the empty cathedrals. Is this merely a reflection of changing demographics? Or does it point to a deeper spiritual shift? Have we, in our relentless pursuit of earthly treasures, inadvertently emptied the spaces where we once sought transcendent meaning? Have we traded the eternal for the ephemeral, the sacred for the secular, the profound for the profitable? What if the emptiness we feel, the gnawing sense that something is missing despite our material comforts, is the direct consequence of this existential misdirection? What if our souls, created for the infinite, are desperately crying out for something more than the finite trinkets we so diligently collect? Could it be that the path to true fulfillment lies not in accumulation, but in a radical reorientation of our deepest hungers, a turning away from the false idols of our age towards the true source of our age, towards the true source of all being? Kenotic Economics, the cruciform alternative. Kenosis. The very sound of the word carries a weight, a profound mystery. Paul tells us of Christ's self-emptying, his deliberate act of relinquishing divine privilege. But could this radical act of humility, this profound kenosis, be more than just a theological cornerstone? What if it holds the very blueprint for a different way of being in the world, a revolutionary economic paradigm that stands in direct opposition to the relentless accumulation that defines our age? Think about it. What if the answer to Mammon's suffocating grip lies not in more regulation, not in cleverer financial instruments, but in a fundamental shift in our understanding of value itself? What if true wealth is not measured in what we possess, but in what we are willing to pour out? To empty oneself. What a shocking proposition in a world that constantly screams for us to fill ourselves with more, 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 more. Could this spiritual principle truly dismantle the very foundations of a system built on endless acquisition? What would it look like to transform wealth from a jealous God, demanding constant sacrifice, into a simple tool, a means to an end that serves a higher purpose? The early church, in the Didache, that ancient guide to Christian living, warned against pride in possessions. Was this merely a moral admonition, or did it reveal a deeper understanding of the spiritual dangers inherent in wealth? Could it be that greed, in its insatiable hunger, is not just a personal failing but a form of worship, a dark liturgy devoted to the false god of scarcity, forever fearing that there is not enough. Consider this. Every time we hoard, every time we prioritize our own accumulation over the needs of others, are we not, in a subtle yet profound way, enacting a ritual of devotion to this god of not enough? Are we not implicitly denying the abundance of a loving Creator, choosing instead to live in a self-imposed state of fear and competition? Thomas Aquinas, with his characteristic clarity, distinguished between ususes, the right use of things, and abusus, their abuse. Their abuse. Their abuse. This isn't just about using resources responsibly. It's about the very intention behind our engagement with the material world. Does our wealth primarily serve to build walls around our own security and comfort, or does it actively build bridges of connection, of compassion, of shared humanity? Of compassion, of shared humanity? Look at the image of Christ's self-emptying, the ultimate act of giving. Now look at the farmer sowing seeds in a dry field, an act of vulnerability, of trust in a future he cannot guarantee. Are these not two sides of the same coin, two expressions of a radical kenotic spirit? One, the divine emptying for the sake of humanity's redemption. The other, a human emptying of resources and effort in the hope of future sustenance. What if our economic systems were fundamentally reoriented around this principle of kenosis? What if businesses prioritized not just profit but the well-being of their workers and the communities they serve? What if investment focused not on maximizing returns for a few, but on fostering genuine human flourishing for the many? Think about the implications. Could a Kenotic Economics truly function in a world driven by competition and of self-interest? Or is this a utopian dream? Beautiful in theory, but impossible in practice. But then wasn't the radical love preached by Christ itself considered utopian by the pragmatists of his time? Consider the stark contrast in the split screen. A clenched fist gripping money tightly, a symbol of fear and possessiveness, versus an open hand offering bread, a gesture of generosity and trust. Which of these images truly reflects the spirit of the gospel? Which one resonates with the deepest longings of the human heart? What if the emptiness we often feel in the midst of our material abundance is a direct consequence of our failure to embrace this kenotic spirit? What if true fulfillment lies not in grasping but in letting go? Not in accumulating but in giving away? Could it be that by emptying ourselves, we paradoxically discover a deeper, more profound fullness, a connection to something far greater than ourselves, and a participation in the very love that created the universe? Mammon's grip V's. Cruciform stewardship. We are told that money itself is not the root of all evil, but the love of it. But have we truly grasped the insidious nature of this distinction? What if the relentless pursuit of wealth subtly, almost imperceptibly, shifts from being a means to an end to becoming the very purpose of our existence? When the accumulation of capital eclipses our concern for human dignity, have we not already crossed that dangerous threshold? Think about the anxieties that plague our modern existence, the fear of scarcity, the relentless pressure to acquire more, the gnawing insecurity that whispers, "We are never enough." Could these pervasive feelings be the very tendrils of Mammon's grip, tightening around our hearts and minds, distorting our perception of true value and authentic security? Mammon's economy, we are told, thrives on fear. Fear of loss, fear of inadequacy, fear of being left behind. But what if this fear is a carefully cultivated illusion, a self-perpetuating cycle that keeps us trapped in a relentless pursuit of more? never allowing us to truly rest in the abundance that already surrounds us. Contrast this with the radical trust at heart of a Kenotic worldview. What if true security doesn't lie in the bulging vaults of our financial institutions, but in the strength of our relationships, in the bonds of community, in the unwavering belief that we are all interconnected and responsible for one another? Consider the wisdom of the early church, as recorded in the Didache. Let your alms sweat in your hands until you know to whom to give. This isn't mere financial prudence. It's a profound spiritual discipline. What if our default mode of giving has become detached, impersonal, a transaction rather than a genuine encounter with human need? Have we lost the visceral connection to the impact of our generosity? The understanding that our surplus can be another's lifeline. Imagine holding onto your resources, feeling the weight of them, until you are compelled to truly see the face of the person who will receive your gift. What kind of transformation would that bring to our understanding of charity? What kind of transformation of charity? Would it shatter the comfortable distance we often maintain between our wealth and the realities of poverty and need? This isn't naivety. It's a radical recalibration of our priorities. What if the true measure of a society's wealth lies not in its GDP or its stock market indices, but in the strength of its koinonia, that profound communion of shared need and shared abundance? What if our ultimate safety net is not a portfolio of diverse investments, but the network of human relationships built on mutual care and reciprocal support? Look at the stark imagery before us. On one side, the lonely act of destroying documents, a symbol perhaps of a system obsessed with control, with erasing its past mistakes, with a fundamental distrust of transparency. On the other, the vibrant scene of a community sharing the fruits of their labor, a testament to interdependence, to the joy found in collective provision. Which of these scenes resonates more deeply with the human spirit's longing for connection and belonging? For connection and belonging. What if the anxieties we carry about our financial future are not signs of prudence, but symptoms of a deeper spiritual malady? A lack of trust in a benevolent universe, a fundamental disbelief in the possibility of enough, a fundamental disbelief in the possibility of enough. Could it be that by clinging so tightly to our own resources, we are actually isolating ourselves from the very sources of true security and joy? Consider the possibility that true wealth is not a zero-sum game, where one person's gain is necessarily another's loss. What if a Kenotic approach to economics reveals a different reality, one where generosity and sharing actually create more abundance for everyone, fostering a virtuous cycle of giving and receiving? What if the question isn't just about how we use our money, but about the very posture of our hearts towards it? Are we holding on to it with a clenched fist, driven by fear and scarcity, or with an open hand, ready to share and contribute to the common good, trusting in a deeper, more profound form of providence? The Eucharistic endgame. The Eucharist. A simple meal repeated for millennia. But what if this act, this sharing of bread and wine, holds the very key to unlocking an economy of grace that shatters the scarcity-driven logic of Mammon? What if this is not just a religious ritual, but a radical act of subversion of the dominant narratives of our age? Consider the profound paradox at its heart. Christ's body broken, not diminished, not lost, but broken for multiplication. How can something broken become a source of abundance? Does this not defy the very principles of our transactional world, where division typically leads to less, not more? Bishop Barron eloquently reminds us, the divine economy is one of gift, not transaction. What if we truly internalize this? What if we began to see every interaction, Every exchange, not as a calculated transaction aimed at personal gain, but as an opportunity for a gift, an outpouring, a moment of shared grace. Think about the implications. If the universe itself operates on the principle of gratuitous love, of freely given abundance, then what does our relentless pursuit of accumulation reveal about our fundamental misunderstanding of reality? Are we clinging to a worldview of scarcity in a world overflowing with divine generosity? To worship the God who empties himself? What does this truly demand of us? Is it merely a Sunday morning devotion? Or does it call us to reorient our entire lives around this radical principle of self-giving? Does it challenge us to examine every facet of our existence, from how we earn to how we spend, from how we relate to our possessions, to how we engage with our neighbors? What if the only investment that truly yields eternal dividends is not the one that lines our pockets, but the love we pour out into the world? What if our acts of generosity, our moments of selfless service, are the seeds of a different kind of wealth, a spiritual capital that transcends the limitations of earthly currencies? Look at this diverse group sharing a single loaf. Is this not a powerful image of unity in the face of difference, of shared sustenance overcoming individual need? What if our economic systems were modeled on this Eucharistic principle, where resources are shared not out of obligation, but out of a deep recognition of our interconnectedness? Consider the contrast. The hoarding of wealth, the fear of scarcity that drives so much of our economic activity, versus the radical sharing embodied in the Eucharist. Which of these practices truly nourishes the human spirit? Which of these practices truly in spirit? Which one builds walls and which one breaks them down? What if the brokenness we experience in our own lives, the vulnerabilities we try so hard to conceal, are not obstacles to connection, but opportunities for a deeper communion? Just as Christ's broken body became the source of new life, could our own willingness to be vulnerable, to share our needs and our gifts, unlock a greater abundance for all? Think about the times you have experienced true joy. Was it in the moment of acquisition or in the moment of giving? Was it in the security of your own possessions or in the connection you forged with another human being through an act of generosity? Where does true and lasting fulfillment truly reside? The choice in the end is stark. Do we serve the gold that rusts, the earthly treasures that ultimately decay and lose their value? Or do we serve the gold that resurrects, the divine love that transforms even the smallest act of self-giving into something eternal? In the economy of grace, the calculus of accumulation is overturned. Even a single penny, offered with love, with intention, with a spirit of kenotic generosity, can become a seed of eternity, planted in the fertile ground of human connection and divine love. What will you lay down to take up the cross? This is the fundamental question that echoes through the ages. What are we willing to surrender? What are we willing to empty ourselves of in order to embrace a different kind of wealth? A wealth measured not in what we hold on to, but in the love we release into the world. What cross are we called to take up? Not as a burden, but as an invitation to participate in the life-giving, world-transforming love of God